Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving headfirst into one of the most mysterious, most profound encounters in the entire Bible. It's a story that, on the surface seems almost too simple. A guy on the run, sleeps on a rock, and has a weird dream. But when you look at it through the lens of the Zohar, the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, this little moment from Parshat Vayetze just explodes. It becomes a blueprint for the engineering of the entire cosmos. Seriously, we're talking about Jacob, a ladder, and this one totally unmarked spot by the side of a road that, well, it just might be the most important place in the universe. So let's really just sit with that question for a second, because it's the key that unlocks this whole mystical adventure we're about to go on. What if the center of the world, that cosmic pillar where all the dimensions connect, wasn't some huge temple or a massive, obvious mountain? What if it was just a specific spiritual coordinate that looked, to the naked eye, like nothing special at all? And that's the wild idea the Zohar throws at us. It's asking us to look past the physical world and see the metaphysical architecture that's hiding just underneath. It's telling us that holiness isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a frequency you have to be tuned in just right to hear. To get this, we've got to go there, right into the scene. So picture Jacob. He is not the powerful patriarch we think of. He's a fugitive. He just tricked his own father, stole the birthright from his twin brother, Esau, and Esau, this terrifying hunter, is absolutely boiling with rage. So Jacob is running for his life, he's alone, he has nothing, and he's heading into the total unknown. And as the sun just vanishes from the sky, he finds himself in the middle of nowhere. The Hebrew text is famous for being super concise, vayifga b'makom. He encountered the place. But the Zohar points out that the verb, vayifga, it suggests a collision, an impact. It's as the sun sets suddenly, almost like the universe itself slammed on the brakes, forcing him to stop right there, at that exact spot. This was no accident. This was a divine appointment disguised as just being really, really tired. So as total darkness falls, everything just goes quiet. But this isn't an empty, scary silence of the wilderness. The mystics describe it as a stillness, just humming with anticipation. You know that feeling in the air right before a lightning strike? That charged electric potential? That's what's happening here. Kabbalah teaches that certain times and places have their own spiritual properties, almost like cosmic weather. And Jacob, in his most vulnerable state, has walked right into a perfect storm, a convergence of time, space, and soul, where the veil between worlds is paper thin. He's not just looking for a place to crash. He is being pulled into the gravitational field of a cosmic event that's been waiting for him for generations. He gathers some stones to use as a pillow, and trust me, we're going to come back to that because it's a huge deal. And he lies down. And as he drifts off, something impossible starts to happen. The very ground beneath him begins to shift. Not an earthquake, but a metaphysical transformation. The Zohar talks about this subtle light, this glow that wasn't from the moon or the stars, but was radiating from the earth itself. The ordinary is becoming a container for the extraordinary. The physical dirt and rock of this spot are literally reconfiguring themselves, aligning to a higher purpose. This isn't just ground anymore, it's becoming a throne. A seat of cosmic power is materializing right under his head. So what is this secret here? How can a random patch of dirt become a cosmic throne? Well, the whole mystery is packed into that one deceptively simple Hebrew phrase the Torah uses, hamakom, the place. Now, to a casual reader, it just means, the location where he was. But to the mystics, that word is a flashing neon sign. It's a hyperlink to a reality that is just staggeringly deep. The Zohar kicks off its whole analysis with this mind-blowing, grammar-defying question, man makom, which means, who is the place? Not what is the place, but who. And that question just changes everything. You see, makom isn't just a noun for a location, it's a title. It's one of the sacred names of God, specifically referring to the divine quality of being the container for all of existence, the omnipresent. God is the space in which the universe happens. So this one little word is hinting that Jacob didn't just find a spot. He stumbled upon a dimension of godliness itself, a place where the fabric of reality was so thin he could feel the divine presence that's always there, holding it all together. And this shows us the two levels we're always dealing with. On the surface, the simple meaning, it's just a random spot where a tired, terrified fugitive falls asleep. It's a moment of total weakness. But in the deep, mystical reading, the secret meaning, it is the absolute opposite. It's a destined spiritual coordinate, a pre-calibrated throne built for a holy union. And here's the kicker. Jacob's physical vulnerability wasn't getting in the way of this revelation. It was the key to it. He had to be stripped of everything, his home, his family, his strength, to become empty enough to actually perceive what was truly there all along. And this quote from the great 16th century Kabbalist Rabbi Moshe Cordovero just nails this idea. God, as Makom, contains all of reality, but no part of reality can contain God. It's a one-way street. So when the Torah says Jacob arrived at the place, it's code. It means Jacob, because of his spiritual state and his whole family history, arrived at a point of direct interface with the divine reality that's the foundation of everything. In modern terms, he didn't just find a campsite, he found a root access terminal to the operating system of the universe. Okay, so if it's not just a place, what is it? What does it do? The best way to really get the mechanics of what's happening here is to think about it like cosmic engineering. This isn't a passive spot on a map, it's an active system. The Zohar paints this picture of the spot as a divine docking station, a specific port designed for a very specific kind of energy transfer. It's where two fundamental systems of reality are meant to sync up and form a perfect, stable union. Now, to get this divine connection, we need to know the players, and they're understood through the Kabbalistic system of the Sephirot, these 10 divine attributes or channels. So as you can see, Jacob is the living, breathing archetype of Tiferet. Tiferet means beauty or harmony. It's the central pillar on the tree of life, the force that perfectly balances the outgoing energy of mercy on one side and the disciplined energy of judgment on the other. It's truth and compassion rolled into one. It's the king. The place, on the other hand, is the archetype of Malchut, the 10th and final Sephirah. Malchut means kingdom. It's the divine feminine principle, the ultimate receiver of all that divine energy flowing down. It is the throne, the vessel, the earth that receives the seed of heaven. So what we're seeing here isn't just a man sleeping on the ground. It's a sacred union, a zivug, between these two cosmic forces. The king, Tiferet, has come to take his rightful place on the throne, Malchut. Let's geek out for a second with a tech analogy to really make this click. Think of Jacob as the consciousness of Tiferet, as a super secure mobile server carrying this critical encrypted data packet of perfected spiritual genetics. The place, the dimension of Malchut, is the central server hub, the only one in the cosmos with the right physical port and the exact authentication protocol needed to receive this specific data. This isn't some random Wi-Fi connection in the desert, no. This is a hardwired, high-security, pre-arranged docking procedure. It's designed to unify two core systems of reality and build a permanent, stable bridge between them. So here's how this whole docking procedure goes down. First, you have the arrival. Jacob shows up at the specific coordinate, not just physically, but spiritually. He's in the right state of being. Second, authentication. The place, Malchut, recognizes him. The Zoar says the stones Jacob gathered all fused into one single stone under his head, a physical sign of this spiritual event. The separate pieces of the throne become one to receive the king. Third is the union. The connection is made. The upper world of Tiferet docks with the lower world of Malchut, and divine energy, Shifa, can now just flow freely. And that union immediately creates step 4, stability. The fiery red of Gevurah, or judgment, the spiritual DNA from his father Isaac, and the pure white of Keset, or mercy, from his grandfather Abraham. These are the very energies his soul is meant to balance, and now they merge through him into this single, stable, glowing field of harmony. The system is online, and it is perfectly balanced. Okay, so the docking is complete. The system is stable. Now what? What can it actually do? Well, the function of this brand new connection is revealed immediately in Jacob's dream. He sees a ladder, a sulam, planted on the earth, with its top reaching all the way to heaven. And this isn't just some symbolic dream. The Zohar says it's a diagnostic reading. Jacob is literally being shown a live feed of the portal he just activated. He's seeing the interface in action. You know, this whole event plays out like one of those epic, multi-generational legacy video games. Abraham was player 1 who discovered the map, Isaac was player 2 who gathered the key items, and now Jacob, the third in the line, has finally reached this legendary hidden checkpoint that was talked about in the game's lore. By getting to this specific spot, the place, he doesn't just save his progress, he unlocks a critical power-up, the prophetic dream. And this isn't just a cutscene. It's a tutorial mission that shows him what this checkpoint does. It's a portal to a new level called the House of God, a direct gateway to the heavens. The save point has just become an active, fast travel location between worlds. So what is this ladder, mystically speaking? The Zohar and other Kabbalistic texts tell us that the ladder is a vision of the Sephirah of Yesod, which means foundation. Yesod is the great connector in the system. It's the channel that takes all the balanced energies from the Sephirah above, funnels them through Tiferet, and pipes them down into Malchut, into our reality. It's the divine conduit, the very foundation that the created world is built on and sustained by. So Jacob isn't just seeing a ladder with some angels. He's seeing the live, functioning data cable linking the divine server to the earthly terminal. He's seeing the very structure of creation live in action. The symbolism here is just so incredibly deep, and it unfolds in these layers of numbers. First up, the number 1. Remember those stones Jacob gathered? There's a famous midrash, a wild story that says the stones were all arguing with each other. Each one was yelling, "Let this righteous man rest his head on me." So in response, God just fused them all into a single stone. The Zohar sees this miracle as the physical proof of the spiritual reality. At this nexus point, all division just stops. The separate competing forces of reality, expansion and restriction, masculine and feminine, spiritual and physical, they all unify into one coherent working whole. The fragmented world becomes one. And that's the secret of real peace, shalom, which comes from the word shalem, meaning complete. Next, the number 3. This moment wasn't just about Jacob. This was the grand finale of a 3-generation spiritual project. Kabbalah connects his grandpa, Abraham, with that expansive, loving energy of chesed, or mercy. His father, Isaac, embodies the total opposite, the intense, disciplined energy of Gevurah, strength or judgment. Now, those are 2 powerful forces, but on their own, they're unstable. Jacob, like we said, is Tiferet, the perfect balance between them. In this moment, at this place, these 3 family lines of spiritual energy converge and are perfected in him. He becomes a living Merkavah, the divine chariot that the prophet Ezekiel saw, a stable, balanced vehicle that can actually hold and channel the divine presence into the world without shattering into a million pieces. And finally, this all explodes into the number 10. Through this perfected union of Tiferet, which is Jacob, and Malkut, which is the place, and with the perfected energy of the 3 patriarchs holding it all together, the Zohar teaches that the entire divine structure, all 10 Sephirot, is brought into perfect harmony. This one physical spot on Earth becomes, for a moment, a perfect microcosm, a hologram of the entire divine cosmos. Every dimension, every divine attribute, from the highest, unknowable crown of Keter, all the way down to our earthly kingdom of Malkut, is present, active, and perfectly integrated right there, in that one stone under Jacob's head. He is literally sleeping on a blueprint of all reality. So, okay, that was a lot. Ancient cosmology, Sephirot, divine docking stations. What does any of this mean for us right here, right now? Why does digging into this ancient mystical event matter at all? Well, because the Zohar teaches this isn't just history. It's not just cosmology. It's a user manual. It's a timeless blueprint for creating these very same points of connection, these sacred spaces in our own lives. Jacob's story is basically showing us that it's possible for each of us to establish our own place, our own makom, where our own personal upper worlds and lower worlds can meet. Now, this could be a physical place, like a corner of your house you set aside for prayer or study. It could be a specific time, like the sacred stillness of Shabbat that comes every single week. Or, and this is the most powerful one, it can be an internal state of being. A moment of deep clarity you find through an act of kindness, through meditation, or through a real heartfelt connection with another person. The blueprint is exactly the same. It requires bringing our own tiferet, our own unique balance of truth and compassion, to a receptive vessel, a malchut, whether that's our body, our relationships, or our community. So the real question the Zohar is asking you right now is, where is your place? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.